Okay, so now we have our DAO where we can put in our app ID, we get the proposal, we can see the votes, and we can place our votes. But now what we want to do is we want to make it so that we only see the register if we need to register, and we only see the votes if we need to vote. And remember, the key to determining whether you can vote or not is this registered ASA value. So basically what we need to, or is this registered ASA asset? So what we need to do is check the state to see if the connected account is holding the registered ASA. So I'm going to create a new function called, or a new piece of state called registered, set registered. And this is going to be a Boolean that simply determines whether someone is already registered for the DAO or not. And then I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to add yet another condition to my register function. And I'm going to say, and not registered. And then I'm going to come down to my vote segment and say, and registered. Right? So now if we come back here, because we have registered hard-coded to false, it's only going to show our call register button. And if I change this to true, and I come back, it's only going to show our vote. But we want to do this programmatically, of course. So I'm going to change this back to false. And what I want to do is basically, once I get my state, I'm going to save a variable just called ASA. And do it like that. So now we have this variable that we can reuse called ASA that we're going to set as the registered ASA. But what I also want to try to do is determine if the user is holding ASA. So to do this, I'm going to get asset info from the chain. So I'm going to say const asset info, and this is going to be equal to the value of await algod client. Oh, why did that just autofill? Account asset information. Let me put this on a new line. And we're going to pass in here our active address, so the user that's currently connected, and our ASA. Now, whenever we interact with algod, you'll notice that this is not an async function yet. What we need to do is call .do on it. And this will actually send the request to the network. So we're forming the request to get account asset information for active address for our ASA. And what we're basically going to do is we're going to set registered. Actually, what I'm going to do first, let me just console log what this actually looks like. So if we come here, come to 1160, and we take a look at what the response looks like, we have our top level object, asset holding, and amount. So we want to basically set registered to asset info, asset holding dot amount, and is that equal to 1 or not? So if the user has one asset of our ASA, then it's going to be true, otherwise it's going to be false. Now the one thing we need to do is there might be a case where we have an uninitialized DAO. So we're also going to throw this in a try catch block. Oops, messed up my copy. We're going to try to get the ASA info. And if not, we'll just set registered to false. Okay. And this is going to be false actually under two conditions. So this will throw a 404 if the app, if the app doesn't exist or the set registered ASA doesn't exist and it's 0, or if our active address doesn't hold the ASA yet. So in either of those conditions, it will fail. In either of those cases, we want to set registered to false. Now, the other thing we need to do is we need to, actually, I think we've done that already. Yeah, so now if we come over here and we go to 1160, we'll see that we have already registered. So it's showing us the vote function. And let me create a new app here. And it doesn't register the vote yet because we haven't yet registered with this DAO. So I'm just going to show again, 1160 shows the vote because shows the vote buttons because we've already registered. 1185 shows register because we haven't registered yet. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and click call register. And now at this point, we'll see that we've registered. So it sent the transaction, but we haven't updated yet, right? So it doesn't know that we've registered. So you have to do a very similar thing to what we did before. We're going to come down into our DAO register and we're going to say set state equal to set state. And in DAO register, I'm going to define set state. This is going to be a function that returns a promise that is void. And then we're going to await props.setState. Okay, so now if we go through that process again, so create an app, call register. Now, after we've registered, it's going to update and call set state again. And in our set state, that's where we're getting the account asset information. So we're asking the ledger, does this account hold this asset? And if it does, register the vote buttons. And if not, we're going to set register to false, which will register the register button. And just to show that this is working, we can go ahead and vote like so. So that concludes the beginner portion of the bootcamp. In the intermediate, we're going to be taking a look at different storage solutions and how we implement those in our front end, in our tests, of course, and talk about how we can start addressing some of the problems that are with this current design, such as the exposure to simple attacks and the simple fact that anyone can vote multiple times. And we ideally want to limit that to 1 vote per person. So we'll be tackling those problems and building upon this exact same code base in the intermediate session. So if you're interested in that, tune in to either the intermediate bootcamp, which will shortly follow the beginner bootcamp, or just go to the intermediate bootcamp playlist on YouTube and follow along there. So I do want to mention that if you have any questions, be sure to head to our Discord. It's discord.gg/Algorand. I know that a lot of this content was delivered in a pretty quick pace. This content was delivered with the idea that you're somewhat familiar with web development already. If you don't fall into that camp and you're brand new to development, this might have been a bit quick for you and you might need some assistance, but that is exactly what we're here for. Again, discord.gg/Algorand. You can find myself, my colleague Ryan, and a bunch of my other colleagues there ready to answer questions. And we also have a bunch of community members in there that are happy to answer questions as well. So again, this concludes the content for beginner. We'll be continuing this exact same code base in the intermediate. And in the meantime, any questions or just suggestions for things you want to see in future boot camps, let us know on Discord. I'll see you then.